Hey, welcome. So you're ready to dive into C++? That's awesome. But you've probably already hit your first big hurdle, and it has nothing to do with code. It's figuring out what tool to even write the code in. We're talking about IDEs, or Integrated Development Environments. It can feel like a huge, overwhelming choice, but don't worry. In this explainer, we're going to cut through all the noise and give you some clear, simple recommendations to get you up and running and writing code with confidence.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to cover what an IDE even is and why you need one. Then, we'll get to the single most important rule you need to follow. After that, we'll jump into our top picks, whether you're on Windows or Linux. We'll also chat about some other tools you might hear about, what to avoid, and, what to do when things just don't go as planned.
All right, first things first. Before we can pick the right tool, we kind of need to understand what the tool is actually for. So let's talk about the what and the why.
So why even bother with an IDE? Can't you just open up a simple text editor and start typing? Well, technically, yeah, you could. But trust me, you would be making your life a whole lot harder. An IDE is all about bringing the essential tools you need for programming together into one convenient place.
I love this analogy. An IDE is to a programmer what a fully equipped kitchen is to a chef. You wouldn't want to run all over town to get your knives, then to another store for a cutting board, and another for a stove, right? An IDE puts everything you need to write your code, build it into a program, and fix it when it breaks, all in one single application. It's your all-in-one workshop.
So what's actually in this workshop? Well, you've got your code editor, which is way smarter than a basic text file. It helps you write cleaner code. You've got a build system, which is the magic that turns your human-readable code into a program the computer can actually run. There's an integrated debugger to help you hunt down and squash those pesky bugs. And usually, there's plugin support, so you can add even more cool features down the road.
Okay, so now we know what an IDE is. Let's talk about the single most important rule for choosing one for learning C++ the modern way. This is a big one.
Here it is. This is the golden rule. Whatever you choose, your IDE and its compiler have to support at least the C++ 17 standard. This isn't just some nice-to-have feature. It's what gives you access to all the modern tools and techniques you'll be learning. Using anything older is like trying to build a modern electric car with tools from the 1980s. You just can't. It's going to hold you back. Now here's the technical nitty-gritty behind that rule. For C++ 17, you need at least GCC version 7, Clang version 8, or Visual Studio 2017. But look, don't get bogged down trying to memorize these numbers. The IDEs we're about to recommend are going to handle all of this for you. This is just so you know what's happening under the hood.
All right, let's get into our specific recommendations. We'll kick things off with our top pick for anyone who's developing on a Windows computer. If you're on Windows 10 or 11, honestly, the answer is a no-brainer. Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. This is an incredibly powerful, industry-standard tool, and the best part is the Community Edition is completely free for students, open-source developers, and individuals. It has literally everything you need to get started right out of the box.
Okay, pay attention here because this part is super important. When you're installing it, you're going to see a screen that asks you to choose workloads. You must check the box that says Desktop Development with C++. If you miss this step, it just won't be set up for C++. The default options that it checks on the right side are usually fine. Just give them a quick glance and make sure a Windows SDK is selected.
Okay, so what if you're not on Windows? What if you're a Linux user? Or maybe you're on Windows, but you want to write code that can easily run on other systems too. Well, we've got a great option for you as well.
For Linux folks, or really anyone who wants a great cross-platform option, our top recommendation is CodeBlocks. It's free, it's open source, and it works great on both Linux and Windows. It's a fantastic, pretty lightweight choice that's just perfect for beginners getting their feet wet.
All right, just one quick but important heads up for Windows users choosing CodeBlocks. The compiler it ships with is a little bit old, so to get all the latest and greatest C++ features, you'll want to update it manually. It sounds scary, but it's actually really easy. You just rename the old compiler folder, download a new one from winlibs.com, and then drop the new folder right into the CodeBlocks directory. This little swap will make sure you're running the most up-to-date compiler.
Now, over on Linux, it's even easier. All you need are the standard build tools.
If you're on a Debian-based system like Ubuntu, that's the Build Essential package. If you're on Arch, you'll grab the Base Dev package. Once you have those, the first time you fire up code blocks, it should find your compiler automatically. If it asks, just make sure GNU GCC compiler is selected and you are good to go.
Now, you've probably heard of some other tools out there, so let's quickly talk about one that's really meant for more advanced users, and just as importantly, which programs you should absolutely, positively avoid as a beginner.
You're definitely going to hear about Visual Studio Code, or VS Code. And look, it's an amazing code editor, but for a C++ beginner, it is not a full IDE right out of the box. Getting it configured involves a ton of manual steps, a bunch of JSON files. There are just so many places where things can go wrong. The bottom line is this: unless you already know exactly what you're doing, save yourself the headache and start with one of the IDEs we recommended. You can always check out VS Code later.
So here's the summary, the cheat sheet. Stick to the tools on the left: Visual Studio on Windows, code blocks for cross-platform, or Xcode if you happen to be on a Mac. And please, whatever you do, avoid the tools on the right. Borland Turbo C++ is basically ancient history. Visual Studio for Mac, confusingly, doesn't even support C++. And Dev C++ hasn't been properly updated in years. With such great, free, modern options, there's just no reason to use these.
Okay, let's be real. Installing software doesn't always go perfectly smoothly. So what do you do if your IDE installation fails, or you get some weird error the first time you try to run a program?
First off, don't panic. Seriously, installation problems are probably the #1 frustration for people just starting out. It's not just you, it happens to everyone. But there are a few standard tricks you can try to get past it.
Think of this as your first aid checklist. Start by uninstalling the IDE completely. Then reboot your computer. Don't skip this step. Maybe try pausing your antivirus software just while you install. Then try again. And you know what? If you're still stuck, the easiest thing to do is often just to try a different IDE from our list. Your goal right now is to start coding, not to become an expert in debugging installers.
Here's a really specific but super common error you might hit with code blocks on Windows: can't find compiler. If you see this, first, double-check that you downloaded the setup file that has MINGW right in the file name. If you're sure you got the right one, try this. Go to Settings, then Compiler, and just hit the button that says Reset to Defaults. That one click fixes the problem like 90% of the time.
And there you have it. That's your complete guide to choosing and setting up your very first C++ IDE. Once your tool is installed and running, that's when the real fun begins. So I guess the only question left is, are you ready to write and compile your first program?